The moment I was reborn, the very first thing I did was drag my girlfriend to get covered in forbidden tattoos. She got the mythical bird Jingwei, and I got the creator god Pengu. She got a full back piece of the goddess of the nine heavens, and I got the supreme Eastern Emperor on my chest. I even used her 20 million in savings to buy an abandoned prison. Seeing this, everyone mocked her for being the ultimate love-struck fool of our generation. The truth was, in just a short while, a global blood moon would descend, bringing catastrophic mutations to the world. All living creatures would mutate. Even the most insignificant ants we see every day could instantly transform into 100-meter behemoths. Even a simple weed would grow into a towering tree. When that time comes, countless humans will end up as their next meal. But those with tattoos would make a shocking discovery. The ink on their bodies awakened right alongside the world. Someone who tattooed the 10 kings of hell became the lord of all ghosts. Others who tattooed the divine Qilin could transform into the mythical beast and rule over a territory. But in my past life, because I didn't have a single tattoo, I was reduced to the lowest form of livestock. Now, having been reborn 2 months before the apocalypse, I immediately spent an astronomical fortune to hire hundreds of the world's top tattoo artists. Right now, as I stand by the window, looking up at the clear blue sky, I couldn't help but sigh. This is the only time left to enjoy a view like this. Once midnight strikes on June 1st, the entire globe will be swallowed by a thick, suffocating smog. With 2 months left until the Great Mutation, there should still be enough time to build a massive shelter. Because once the apocalypse hits, every single living creature will become incredibly powerful. Humanity will have almost nowhere left to survive. So, building a fortress in these early stages is absolutely the best choice. I then picked up my phone and made a call. "Hello, Chairman? What are your orders?" came the respectful voice of a middle-aged man from the other end. "Look into whether there are any large abandoned prisons for sale in Longjiang City." The Hungyu Group, which my parents left me after they passed, spanned multiple industries. Real estate was just one of them, and the man I was talking to right now was Zhang Tuo, the general manager in charge of our real estate division. "Chairman, as far as I know, there are two. One is out in the barren desert area in the western suburbs. It has a total area of over 500,000 square meters. It's significantly larger than Tiananmen Square in the capital. It looks like something built in the last century. The current asking price is around 100 million. As for the other one, that's the one." I completely cut off his introduction. That desolate area in the western suburbs was absolutely perfect. "Chairman, what are you planning to?" Zhang Tuo's confused voice came through the phone. "Contact the person in charge of this prison right now. I want it bought out as fast as humanly possible. Then start construction immediately. The outer walls need to be at least several hundred meters high. They have to be a minimum of 2 meters thick, built entirely out of reinforced concrete. The ground needs the exact same treatment, and both the underground and surface levels must be heavily plated with solid steel. My goal is to build a massive, impregnable shelter. We need to stockpile enough supplies to feed thousands of people for at least 3 years. The more, the better. Know what to do, right?" On the other end of the line, Zhang Tuo was completely dumbfounded. "See, Chairman, I just ran a rough calculation. To build something matching your exact demands, it's going to cost us an extra 3 to 4 billion at the absolute minimum. I need it finished in exactly 50 days. If 10 billion isn't enough, call me anytime. Just remember, turn this place into an ultimate doomsday fortress. Money is not an issue. With the company my parents left behind and my own immense wealth, money was nothing more than a string of numbers to me anyway. Besides, once the Great Mutation strikes, the United Nations will try to stabilize the chaos by rolling out a unified global currency. When that time comes, only things like solid gold will hold any real value. I've already made up my mind to sell the Hungyu Group and use all the funds to buy up gold at rock-bottom prices." "Understood. With your word, Chairman, that's all I need. As long as we have an unlimited budget, I will personally oversee the construction. Within 50 days, I guarantee you'll see an indestructible doomsday fortress. I'll have the finance department open up a 10 billion trading limit for you first. Get to it. The sooner it's finished, the better." With that, I hung up the phone. The shelter arrangements settled. Now I just have to wait for the world's top tattoo artists to arrive. Afterward, I sat down on the plush sofa and searched online for the most powerful tattoos. Eventually, I settled on 10 ultimate demonic tattoos. Once these are carved into my skin and awaken when the world mutates, I can't even begin to imagine how terrifyingly powerful I will become. I remember in my past life, those who had tattoos of the Azure Dragon or Qilin all stood at the absolute pinnacle of this planet. But among the mutated beasts, there were certainly existences that could rival them. On the Kunlun Mountains, there was a golden lion snake. That took 1 year to become a flood dragon, and 2 years to become a true dragon. By the third year, it evolved into a golden dragon. Over on Mount Ma, there was a monkey king with unmatched, absolute power. Every monkey across the globe was under his command. Through the global mutation, wild animals became the true masters of this world, as countless massive beast kings ran completely rampant. In the early stages, humanity relied on nukes and heavy firearms to keep them at bay, but later on, we survived solely under the protection of the awakened tattoo masters. By evening, a black luxury sedan slowly pulled into the parking lot outside my villa. The passenger door opened, and the first to step out was a gorgeous, tall woman in a professional suit, sporting flowing wine-red hair. Another stunning woman stepped out from the back seat. "Ms. Kareem, right this way, please." Shen Jixia stepped forward and gestured politely to her. Kareem took a quick glance at the surroundings before walking toward the villa. Meanwhile, my AI assistant had already alerted me, letting me know that Shen Jixia and her guest had arrived. A moment later, I walked into the living room wearing black silk pajamas. "Chairman, this is Ms. Kareem, the world-renowned tattoo artist. A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Yi Xuanchen." Kareem stood up with a smile and extended her hand. I reached out and shook it. We took our seats on the sofas opposite each other, and Kareem got straight to the point. "So, Mr. Yi, what kind of tattoo are you looking to get?" I looked up with a faint smile. "Need 10 in total. Specifically, Rahu, the king of hell, the evil god, the black dragon, the grim reaper, Asura, Caillou, the monkey king, and Neza." "Mr. Yi, I don't know if you're superstitious at all." Staring at my requested list, even someone as experienced as Kareem was visibly shocked. "I've done quite a bit of research on these specific figures you mentioned." I took a slow sip of my tea. "All you need to do is focus. Just give it your absolute best and ink them on me. Whether I can handle the karmic weight of these entities is entirely my problem." "Well, since you put it that way, Mr. Yi, I won't say another word about it. You must be exhausted from your trip. Get a good night's rest first, and we'll begin tomorrow at noon. How does that sound?" Kareem nodded in agreement. The next day at noon, Shen Jixia stood waiting quietly right outside my bedroom door. It wasn't until evening, just as the sun was setting, that the door finally opened. Kareem walked out of the room. "Miss Kareem, how did it go?" Shen Jixia quickly stepped forward to ask. Kareem simply gave her a tired but satisfied nod. "Miss Shen, your chairman's tattoos turned out absolutely perfectly. I've never been this intensely focused in my entire life. Mr. Yi also requested that I give you a tattoo as well." Hearing that the chairman wanted her to get inked too, Shen Jixia completely froze. "You are required to get one." My stern voice echoed out from inside the room. Hearing that commanding tone, Shen Jixia helplessly gave in. "All right, just put one on my arm then. Tattoo a female Rakshasa on me." I cut her off before she could even finish her sentence. Shen Jixia stood frozen in place. In the end, she could only nod helplessly. A short while later, I walked out of the room shirtless, my upper body completely covered in tattoos. And the tattoos awaken, the more powerful the ink on your body is, the more excruciating the pain will be. With all these tattoos carved into my skin, my body just might explode. In my past life, I was never a tattoo awakened. I only knew that the awakening process was agonizing. But right now, I'm risking it all. It's do or die. Around 9 o'clock, I saw off Kareem and his guys. Back in the room, Shen Jixia just stared at me. Her face was full of confusion. "Soon enough, you'll be thanking me on your knees." I gave her a look and turned to leave. Making her get a tattoo was purely because she's been with me for 6 or 7 years. She's proved herself to be reliable. When you get back, tell the finance department to grant Zhang Chuo access to 10 billion in funding. Hearing this, Shen Jixia opened her mouth to question me, but I've never been the type to explain myself. I just kept walking quickly ahead. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, it was May 1st, Labor Day. On this day, the massive 20-day construction project over at the prison was being heavily reported by online media. There were even plenty of streamers broadcasting it live. Thousands of workers were taking shifts day and night. In just 28 days, they had built more than 2/3 of it. At this rate, barring any accidents, it would be completely finished in just over 10 days. Normal people just thought it was some rich guy with too much money to burn. No one would ever suspect that an apocalyptic disaster was right around the corner. And honestly, I couldn't care less about what the public thought. For the past month, I've just been focused on working out. In my past life, I heard rumors that if your body was too weak when the tattoos awakened, you could literally die from the shock. I had to get myself into peak physical condition over these 2 months. Just then, my phone chimed with a text message. I picked it up to check. It was a massive deposit of over 90 billion. At the exact same time, Shen Jixia called. The moment I picked up, her voice came through the speaker. "Chairman, did the funds go through?" I gave a soft hum of approval and said, clearly satisfied, "You did a great job. Hurry back, Chairman. Chen Jixia hesitated for a moment, but finally, she spoke up. In my eyes, what you're doing right now is just completely throwing your life away. Besides, the company buying out Hanyu Group offered me a massive salary to stay. I'm a very ambitious woman. I have zero interest in working for a man who would sell off his parents' legacy, just to blow tens of billions on some useless compound. Fine, I'll wire last month's salary to your account, I replied coldly, hanging up the phone without a second thought. Shen Jixia leaving didn't bother me in the slightest. Everyone has their own path to walk. If she leaves now, and thinks she can ever come crawling back later, she's absolutely dreaming. Boss, from outside the villa, a heavily built man in a sharp black suit walked in. I picked up my teacup, glancing up to ask him, how did everything go? Boss, since when have you ever had to worry about me? Lu Biao let out a rough laugh. About 100 of our brothers all got the demon ink. Plus, every single one of these guys is an orphan with zero attachments. They are fiercely loyal to you, boss. At this, he lowered his voice to a whisper. Boss, is the apocalypse really coming? That's right, I didn't hold anything back from him. Because he was a brother who I'd trust with my life. He once took a knife for me. No wonder you're making such massive moves, boss. But what do the tattoos have to do with the apocalypse? You'll find out when the time comes, I said. Lu Biao, to prevent any surprises, take a team and oversee the construction in the western suburbs. It needs to be finished within 10 days. We'll still need a few days after that to transport all the supplies. Lu Biao nodded firmly. Boss, I'm heading over right now. After you left, I made a classified call. Xiao Yi, over the past month, you've certainly been making quite a scene. As soon as the call connected, an elderly voice came through. Elder Qin Zhenghong, you flatter me, I replied politely. Then, I cut straight to the chase. I want to purchase 160 billion in gold. Can you help me secure it, Elder Qin? What on earth do you need that much gold for? Please don't ask, Elder Qin. As I spoke, I directly wired 1 billion to his account. No one knows better than I do. When the disaster strikes and the new unified currency is issued, this cash will depreciate into worthless paper. All right, I'll help you. He probably saw the deposit notification. 1 second he was asking questions, and the next, he agreed without hesitation. Thank you, Elder Qin. Can this be sorted out within a week? It can. We'll do cash on delivery, gold for the money. After a bit more small talk, I ended the call. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, it was May 28th. Out in the barren western suburbs of Longjiang City, a massive shelter costing nearly 10 billion and covering over 500,000 square meters. Sat there like a miniature fortress city. The visual impact was absolutely staggering. The massive, heavy walls towered over 600 meters high and were more than 20 meters thick. Towering wind turbines were erected at regular intervals, while massive electrical grid covered the sky above. To defend against vicious, mutant birds, fixed along the top of the walls, countless solar panels, and it wasn't just the perimeter walls made of reinforced concrete. The ground inside the shelter was exactly the same. Even the foundations and surface layers were plated with heavy steel. When the global mutation strikes, everything except the tattooed humans will evolve. Even rats and ants will become deadly threats. Looking inside the compound, clusters of high-rises stood tall, capable of sheltering tens of thousands of people. Oh my god, what an absolute behemoth. Why would the richest man in Longjiang City build a fortress like this? What is he planning? I heard he even sold off the Hanyu Group. Don't tell me those doomsday movies are actually coming true? A massive crowd had gathered outside the shelter, filled with live streamers and onlookers who had traveled hundreds of miles just to watch the spectacle. Everyone stared at the colossal structure in absolute awe. Miss Shen, given your history with him, do you really not know anything about this shelter? Inside a luxurious corporate SUV, a breathtakingly elegant woman sitting in the back seat pulled her gaze away from the distant fortress. She turned to look at Shen Jixia sitting next to her. This woman was the mastermind who had bought out the Hanyu Group. Xia Yuning, the heiress of the Xia family, one of the top 5 elites in Jingdu. Shen Jixia shook her head with a bitter smile. Boss, he really didn't tell me a single thing. If you know anything about him, then you should know exactly what kind of man he is. Oh, I know him all right. I've crossed paths with him more than once. He truly is a man who's impossible to read. From what I've gathered, the supplies they shipped in over the past few days, if stored properly, could sustain 10,000 people for over 3 years. Why on earth would he do this? But she wasn't the only one who was completely baffled. Countless financial syndicates across the Dragon Nation were scratching their heads, though none of them had even considered the possibility of an apocalypse. But even if they did know, it was far too late to do anything about it now. Just then, massive clouds of dust kicked up on the horizon. Over 100 military jeeps escorted a luxurious custom SUV, speeding straight toward the compound. He's here. Look, my friends in the chat. That has to be the convoy of Longzhong's richest man, Yi Xuanchen. The streamers frantically pointed their phones at the massive, roaring motorcade. Completely ignoring the massive crowd and the swarm of cameras, the convoy finally rolled to a stop right in front of those gigantic, impenetrable steel gates. The heavy iron doors slowly opened, and the convoy rolled into the shelter. "Airman, I haven't let you down. This shelter, I'd bet my very life on it." Zhang Tuo sat across from me, patting his chest as he made his guarantee. "Now, aren't you going to tell me why you built it?" Lu Biao poured me half a glass of red wine. He chuckled. "Well, obviously, the apocalypse is coming. Exactly on June 1st, Children's Day." "Wait, what?" Hearing this, a look of doubt crossed Zhang Tuo's face. Seeing his reaction, Lu Biao just laughed. "Believe it or not, it's up to you. But whatever the boss says, I trust him 100%. If you're smart, you'll believe him too. You'd better bring your family inside within the next 2 days." Lu Biao opened his mouth to say something else. I took a sip of my wine and cut him off. "No rush. You have exactly 1 day to think about it. I believe you. I'll bring my family over tomorrow. June 1st is right around the corner, anyway. If it's true, thank God we're here. If it's false, there's no harm done." Afterward, Zhang Tuo gave me a tour of this massive shelter that cost tens of billions to build. For power, we had wind turbines, solar panels, and 50,000 heavy-duty generators. We also had over 300,000 tons of oil in reserve. The security measures were absolutely top tier. Honestly, the only thing to worry about down here was the massive electrical grid covering the ceiling potentially running out of power. There were also several factory areas, like a clothing plant, a food processing plant, and a manufacturing wing for everyday essentials. We even had farming and greenhouse zones, stocked with all kinds of seeds. As for meat, when the time came, we just hunt those mutated monsters. By the time we finished touring the shelter, it was already evening. I'd personally inspected almost every key area. Overall, I was extremely satisfied. In the blink of an eye, it was already May 31st. That night, the shelter was brightly lit, but it felt awfully empty and quiet. Up on the observation deck, Lu Biao and I were just drinking tea and chatting. Night sky was dotted with stars, a full moon hanging high. Everything was so peaceful, without the slightest sign of what was to come. Ha ha ha, Lu Biao took a sip of his tea, barely able to contain his excitement. The countdown to the collapse of society has officially begun. I flashed a wicked smile. Time flies when you're talking. Before we knew it, it was already 11:55. At that moment, the only people in the shelter were Zhang Tuo's family of 3, and Lu Biao's 108 royal brothers. And every single one of them had gotten their tattoos. I looked up at the night sky and spoke softly. "Tonight is going to be a sleepless night. It's 11:58 now." Lu Biao's heart was racing, his eyes glued to the countdown on his phone. Second the clock hit 11:59, boom. Suddenly, a blinding streak of blood-red lightning tore across the sky, looking like it had sliced the Earth's atmosphere clean in half. Then came a deafening roar. An eerie, crimson glow illuminated the night all across the globe. When the flash faded, that once pure, silver moon had turned as vividly red as fresh blood, casting a bizarre, sinister light over the darkness. As the midnight bell struck 12 o'clock, my good brother Lu Biao suddenly clutched his head and screamed in agony. "Boss, my head, it feels like it's exploding. My tattoos are burning up. They're trying to tear their way out of my skin." The black tiger tattooed on his back, and the demon king on his chest looked as though some incredibly terrifying power was about to burst right out of them. A second later, Lu Biao completely passed out. I rushed forward to check on him, but suddenly, I gagged and coughed up a huge mouthful of blood. Damn it, it felt like 11 unimaginably violent surges of psychic energy were tearing through my brain. The raging pain felt like it was tearing my head apart, and at the same time, the black dragon on my left arm, the white tiger on my right, and all the other tattoos across my entire body all radiated a scorching, unbearable heat. A massive surge of power rampaged recklessly inside me. My bones began to shatter. In just a few short breaths, I was pushed right to the brink of death. Right after that, the deafening roars of the black dragon, white tiger, and Qilin suddenly echoed from within me. The intense shockwaves literally tore my flesh apart. Is this it? Am I really going to die? I felt absolute despair in that moment. Through my blurred vision, I could vaguely see a black dragon circling above me, the Grim Reaper glaring down, and an Asura laughing with vicious cruelty. The Great Sage and Neza mocking me, while skeletal spirits cackled eerily. Chiyu glaring with sheer contempt, and the high and mighty Ravu looking down on me as if I were nothing but a worthless ant. Guess my body just couldn't handle it after all. To think that getting a second chance at life would still end up exactly like this. Filled with deep, bitter regret, I weakly closed my tired eyes. But right at that very moment, that bizarre, mysterious mark on the palm of my right hand suddenly began to emit a faint, pale grayish-white light, flowing straight into my body and mind. Then, a total miracle happened. My rapidly fading life force, which had already hit rock bottom, not only completely stabilized in the blink of an eye, but it actually started recovering at an incredible speed. Every single tattoo across my skin was now flashing with brilliant, multicolored lights. Then, 11 towering phantom figures of my tattoos surged right out from my body, before finally bowing in willing submission and sinking back into my flesh. Meanwhile, as the global mutation began to sweep across the world, even a tiny blade of grass instantly evolved to be several meters tall, becoming so incredibly tough and razor-sharp that it could easily pierce straight through a human body. All the animals undergoing mutation were constantly letting out sharp, terrifying, high-pitched roars. People who kept pets at home were absolutely stunned. Their normal house cats and dogs suddenly exploded in enormous size. It looked even more ferocious than wild tigers, but surprisingly, not a single one turned on their owners. Although they were a little restless, they had all awakened true intelligence. And as time slowly passed, outside the massive walls of our steel shelter, pair after pair of terrifying, glowing eyes began to flicker in the darkness. Luckily, for now at least, this shelter was completely impenetrable and absolutely safe from any danger. I don't know how much time had passed, but my 108 brothers with demon tattoos began to wake up, one after another. Whoa, what incredible power! Is this the real reason the boss told us to get these tattoos? Feeling the endless stream of power surging from the demon tattoos on their backs, every single one of their faces was filled with utter disbelief. The moment they tried to channel the power of the demon tattoos, a full, badass suit of demonic armor instantly covered their entire bodies. Not long after, up on the observation deck, Lu Biao also slowly woke up. He suddenly gasped sharply, clutching tightly at his own chest. With a black tiger inked on his back and a demon king on his chest, two terrifying streams of power were violently intertwining inside him. The second he tried to summon the power of the black tiger, an incredibly badass set of pitch black tiger battle armor instantly encased his whole body. Holy crap, you can actually do this? Then, the moment he tried to channel the Demon King tattoo, the black tiger armor instantly evolved into an even more insane Demon King tiger armor. A pair of epic, futuristic tiger stripe wings vibrated slightly before blasting him violently up into the sky. Looking down from high above, he spotted his 108 brothers gathered down in the plaza. With a gentle flap of his wings, he dropped down and landed right among them with a massive, earth-shaking boom. Brother Biao, that is so freaking badass. The crowd of brothers wearing their demon armor rushed forward to greet him. Their faces were completely lit up with indescribable excitement. Yeah, it really is completely badass. By the way, have any of you guys seen the boss? They all shook their heads, saying they hadn't seen him anywhere. Wu Biao then deactivated his armor. You guys just wait here. I'm gonna head up and check on the boss in his room. Meanwhile, back in my bedroom, I had just finished washing off all the blood. The tattoos across my body, after fully awakening, looked like they were completely alive. The heavy, oppressive aura they gave off was absolutely terrifying. Staring down at the bizarre, pale gray mark on my hand, I knew without a doubt that it was the thing that saved my life. Just what kind of insane origin do you have? I couldn't help but mutter to myself. I couldn't help but feel incredibly curious about the mystery behind this mark. Right now, even without tapping into the true power of the tattoos, my physical strength was already off the charts. I felt like I could catch an armor-piercing bullet barehanded. With just a thought, the blood spear tattoo on my forehead radiated a bewitching, blood-red glow. The tattoo then vanished from my skin, materializing right in front of me as a long spear. With another slight thought, the blood spear darted around the room like a bolt of lightning. Next, I activated the Asura tattoo. Instantly, a set of dark red armor covered my entire body. When I triggered the black dragon tattoo, my Asura armor transformed, overlaying itself with intricate black dragon patterns. The invisible aura it gave off became even more brutal and terrifying. I then activated the white tiger tattoo. A surge of white light billowed behind me, and miraculously formed 36 tiger-striped throwing knives, hovering quietly by my back. But I suddenly realized something. I could only use the power of 4 tattoos at the same time. I channeled the Great Sage tattoo, and immediately, a terrifying surge of power erupted from within me. A majestic, godlike phantom of the Monkey King appeared behind me, while a relentless, raging power coursed through my veins. Calling upon the Qilin tattoo, a set of Qilin armor wreathed in flowing black flames encased my body. My strength skyrocketed, but right then, I noticed, and I couldn't activate any more tattoos. I quickly dismissed the Qilin armor and the Great Sage Phantom. Channeling the Grim Reaper tattoo, a pitch-black aura of death instantly enveloped me. The Reaper's cloak wrapped around my body, the power of death surging inside me. Felt like it came straight from the abyss of hell, pushing the Grim Reaper tattoo further. A massive scythe materialized in my palm, radiating a chilling, suffocating energy. Once they were active, I couldn't call upon any other tattoos. I dispersed them again, and this time, I tried to activate the Ravu tattoo. Instantly, I coughed up a mouthful of blood. With my body's current state, I actually couldn't handle it. As expected from the demon ancestor Ravu, it was on a completely different level from the other tattoos. Next, I activated the Chiyu tattoo. A massive force exploded from within me, and a layer of glowing gray runes coated my skin, pulsed with an oppressive, dull gray light. Then, I triggered the Neza tattoo. Unexpectedly, the Chiyu tattoo immediately shattered. My entire body underwent an earth-shattering transformation. I actually turned into the awakened Neza from the legends. I knew my tattoos were only at level 1 right now, so I wasn't invincible yet. In my past life, many tattoo awakeners managed to cultivate all the way to tier 9. Their power was so terrifying they could flatten a mountain with just a wave of their hand. Next, I kept exploring the unique traits of each tattoo. When activated alone, the White Tiger tattoo also materialized as a suit of armor. But my current physical strength simply couldn't handle stacking 3 layers of armor. Both my Asura armor and Black Dragon armor were already incredibly strong. Even just using one of them was far stronger than Lu Biao's double-layered armor. Meanwhile, mutated beasts were running rampant out in the city. These creatures had developed intelligence, actually knowing how to break into homes to hunt down humans. Massive numbers of troops were deployed, sending in tanks and fighter jets for the rescue. Right at that moment, outside a luxurious mansion in one of Longjiang City's high-end neighborhoods, a mutated Tibetan Mastiff stood guard, its body as massive as a minivan. It crouched there defensively. Meanwhile, inside the living room of the very mansion it was guarding, Xiao Yuning was huddled on the sofa, listening to the terrifying roars outside and the agonizing screams echoing from the house next door. She was completely consumed by fear and despair. Thankfully, her beloved Tibetan Mastiff hadn't turned on her after mutating. She had just called home, only to find that her entire family was already in utter chaos. It couldn't even bother with her anymore. Suddenly, the Tibetan Mastiff outside the door let out a fierce growl. "Sister Yuning, are you in there?" At the same time, Shen Jisha's voice rang out. Hearing her, Xiao Yuning froze for a moment. How did she make it here? "Xiao Bai, stand down. She's a friend." As she spoke, Xiao Yuning got up and hurried over to open the door. She saw her mastiff baring its fangs, glaring at an armored figure standing nearby. Judging by the curves, it was a woman. Seeing her come out, Shen Jisha retracted her helmet and said, "Sister Yuning, it's me." Xiao Yuning stared at her in absolute shock. She asked in confusion where the armor came from. "It came from my tattoo." Yi Xuanchen actually predicted the apocalypse, and even knew that tattoos could awaken. Hearing Shen Jisha's words, Xiao Yuning was completely dumbfounded. Then, looking at her with envy, Xiao Yuning said, "Thank you for still checking on me at a time like this. Sister Yuning, let me escort you to the shelter. It's not safe to stay here." "Escort me? But what about you?" A bitter smile appeared on Shen Jisha's face. She knew deep down that she could never return to that man's side. She had only come here after dropping her family off safely with the military. Xiao Yuning was visibly worried. Shen Jisha reasoned, "With your exceptional management skills right now, he definitely won't turn you away." Hearing this, Xiao Yuning nodded and decided to head out. Meanwhile, outside the steel shelter, a massive horde of mutated beasts had gathered. "Look at all those monsters. There's got to be thousands of them out there. These bastards are trying to dig their way in." 108 brothers, all clad in demonic armor, stood watching the monsters rampaging outside. Every single one of them was itching to go out and test the power of their new armor. Suddenly, a massive flock of crows, each the size of a fighter jet, swept down from the sky, diving straight toward the electric grid covering the shelter. Sparks exploded everywhere. 100,000 volts of electricity was way more than they could handle. The moment they touched it, their bodies seized up completely. A short while later, I hurried up to the scene with Lu Biao. "Boss." Seeing us, the guys immediately stepped forward to greet me. "Well, how do you guys like the armor?" "It's absolutely badass. Boss, you really are a prophet." Right after that, I ordered them to follow me outside, to wipe out the monsters at the base of the wall. "Every one of them has a crystal core inside," I explained. "These cores will help us train and level up our tattoos." "Wait, our tattoos can level up?" Their eyes lit up with excitement. I chuckled. This is our era now. With just a single thought, my Asura dragon armor materialized around me. The terrifying aura slammed into their senses, causing the super tattoos on their bodies to tremble. They felt as if they were being completely crushed. "Boss, that armor of yours is insane." Lu Biao's eyes were wide with shock. Awakening just 2 tattoos almost cost me my life. You've got so many. How on earth did you survive the process? I actually almost died too. I just got really lucky. But I couldn't tell anyone about the mysterious mark inside my heart. Right at that moment, an ear-piercing howl ripped through the air. Looking up, I saw a massive bearded vulture, about the size of a corgi, swooping down at us through the blood-red sky. It circled just outside our electric fence. These were the wild beasts surviving out in the Gobi Desert. There were all kinds out there, but the mutated sand rats were definitely the most common. Suddenly, the vulture locked its dead eyes right on me. It opened its beak and blasted a beam of pure energy, shooting straight for the electric fence. The beam slammed into the fence, but it didn't blast a massive hole like you'd expect. The fence just shook a little, completely undamaged. Right then, Dong Tuo walked up, laughing out loud. "Ha, this is the strongest alloy electric fence in the world. Plus, it's got shock absorbers installed." Lu Biao let out a massive sigh of relief. These mutant beasts can shoot energy from their mouths? Oh, they can do a lot more than just shoot energy. Once they evolve a bit more, they'll be pulling off some terrifying supernatural powers. I replied calmly, "Go to the armory. Grab your weapons. It's our turn to hunt." Then, I glared at the vulture circling outside. "Leave this ugly bastard to me." Everyone nodded firmly, rushing off together to gear up. "Boss, can you even fly? Maybe you should let me handle that one." Lu Biao yelled, and at the same time, he triggered his Black Tiger and Demon King's super tattoos. In a flash, a winged, demonic tiger armor covered his entire body. "Can't you just use your mental power?" As I said that, I summoned my Black Dragon tattoo. With a quick movement, I flew straight toward the heavy steel doors of the shelter. You see, every time a super tattoo awakens, grants the host a massive surge of mental energy, and the energy I got from my 11 super tattoos was absolutely terrifying. No way, that actually works? That's our boss for you. I'm gonna go grab an alloy machete. Our super tattoos can manifest armor, but they don't give us weapons. Lu Biao quickly jogged after me. A few seconds later, I reached the iron gate and slammed the switch. The red and black patterns of my Asura dragon armor flared up. The dark dragon lines crisscrossed my body, radiating a brutal, suffocating aura. With just a single thought, the blood spear tattoo on my forehead awakened. It materialized right into a crimson spear in my palm. By now, the heavy iron doors had opened just enough for me to slip through. Gripping my blood spear, I stepped out through the gap. The moment I showed up, hundreds of those mutated sand rats, each the size of a freaking tiger, along with sand crabs and sand foxes, locked their bloodthirsty, excited eyes right onto me. They roared at me, instantly swarming forward. They scrambled over each other, desperate to tear into their prey. As a cloud of dust kicked up, I completely vanished from where I stood. When I reappeared, my blood spear was already driven straight through the skull of a giant sand crab. Then, with a terrifying burst of power, the crab's entire head exploded into bloody chunks. Right then, several nearby sand rats lunged at me with their massive jaws wide open. But I was way too fast. With just a blur of movement, the blood spear flashed violently. Fresh blood splattered all over the dirt. The 6 sand rats that had lunged at me had their heads completely sliced clean off their bodies. Even though my super tattoos were only level 1, they were all crafted by the legendary Kareem. They were literally the strongest tattoos in the entire world. The sheer surge of mental energy from awakening just one of them was enough to kill 90% of other awakened. If I didn't have that gray mark on my palm, I thought I was dead for sure. Just then, a sand tiger, nearly 2 meters long, lunged at my back with its bloody jaws wide open. It aimed straight for my head. I quickly dodged to the side, leapt right above the beast, and with a massive bang, I mercilessly crushed it into the dirt. At the exact same time, 6 sand rats suddenly swarmed in from my left, letting out these ear-piercing screeches. But the very next second, my blood spear tore through the air. A storm of crimson lightning flashed and swept right through them. All 6 sand rats instantly exploded into pieces, each dropping a milky white crystal core about the size of an index finger. "Boss, I'm here. That mutated bird looks like it's trying to escape. Hurry up and go after it." Without wasting a second, I launched myself into the air, chasing right after that fleeing bird. Meanwhile, Lu Biao was fighting like an absolute savage. A fierce, tiger-like aura erupted all around him, surging with the dark power of a demon king. He charged into the swarm of mutant beasts with his machete, slaughtering them as easily as chopping vegetables. Just as Lu Biao hacked down a few of those monsters, our 108 brothers, clad in demonic armor, swarmed onto the battlefield and joined the absolute massacre. Up in the sky, over 2,000 meters high, I was moving at terrifying speeds, relentlessly hunting down that fleeing mutant vulture. The beast glanced back at me, and could clearly feel an overwhelming, deadly threat radiating from the human chasing it down. Being just as intelligent as a human, it was flying for its absolute life. It didn't have even an ounce of courage left to fight me. But the gap between us was closing fast. At this rate, I was going to catch it in less than 1 minute. The mutant vulture let out an anxious, frantic screech. It spun around, opened its beak, and blasted several beams of energy right at me. But then, a truly horrifying sight for the beast suddenly unfolded. The human hunting it down effortlessly raised a hand and completely shattered its energy blasts. All of a sudden, the vulture's feathers stood on end. It whipped its head around, completely terrified out of its mind. Staring right back at it was my ridiculously brutal blood spear, crackling with explosive lightning. In the blink of an eye, the weapon was already right in its face. Then, with one brutal punch, I absolutely obliterated the beast's body. A crystal core, right about the size of a baby's fist, popped out. Finding a core this huge so early in the apocalypse, if we had let this thing grow any longer, it would have been a massive disaster for humanity. I quickly grabbed the crystal core and turned straight back to the monster swarm. Even in these early stages of the apocalypse, some beasts mutate into something incredibly powerful right from the start. They have absolutely limitless potential, and that mutant vulture was definitely one of them. But right now, at this stage of the game, I am completely freaking invincible. Meanwhile, in the dead of night, a massive black cat, 3 times the size of a tiger, was sprinting at unbelievable speeds, carrying a woman right on its back. They were desperately rushing toward the shelter. "Little Black, go faster." The woman riding the black cat had a delicate, pretty face. Right now, she looked completely drained. In the pitch-black desert night, it felt like countless eyes were just staring her down from the shadows. This woman was none other than the famous streamer, Song Xingwan. The only reason she had managed to survive this long was because her pet cat had mutated into such an incredibly powerful beast. But right now, her only thought was getting inside that shelter. To her, in all of Longjiang City right now, that shelter was the only safe place left. As for me, I was like a relentless killing machine right then, taking down at least dozens of mutated beasts every minute. After well over half an hour, the ground beneath the walls was soaked in blood, littered as far as the eye could see with the mangled corpses of beasts. Once the slaughter was finished, the guys started harvesting the crystal cores from the beasts' bodies. Boss, that was freaking awesome. Outside the shelter's only heavy iron gate, Lu Biao walked back carrying his dripping alloy battle blade. His armor was completely coated in beast blood, looking like he still hadn't had enough killing. I didn't answer him. Instead, I looked up, staring off into the distance. "What's wrong, boss? With our strength, is there really anything out there we need to be afraid of?" I then pulled my gaze back. "Desert army ants, they're not exactly a major threat, but we need to stay on guard." Hearing this, Lu Biao looked totally confused. How could those things be here in the Dragon Kingdom? Because this place used to be a prison. Last century, to stop inmates from escaping, they brought in a colony of desert army ants from Africa and bred them in this wasteland to keep the criminals in line. Even though it's been almost a century, it's hard to say if they're still around. Stench of blood here is so strong, it just might draw them right to us. I immediately added, just in case, tell the brothers to finish gathering the beast crystals as fast as possible. If the desert army ants really do show up, it'll actually be more of a blessing than a curse for us. In my past life, I heard that desert army ants appeared a few months after the cataclysm. That's exactly why I built the shelter here. My goal is simple: kill the ants, take their crystals, and rapidly power up. But I also know this is just the beginning. The mutated beasts in the city are easy to deal with, but the ones out in the wild are a real headache. And the biggest threat of all lies in the 71% of the planet covered by oceans. When billions upon billions of sea monsters crawl onto land, that will be humanity's true moment of despair. In my past life, every single coastal city was wiped out by sea beasts. Their numbers were so overwhelmingly massive that they couldn't be stopped. Because of that, we had to grow strong in the shortest time possible. After getting the order from Lu Biao, all the brothers sped up, gathering the crystals as fast as they could. After about 10 minutes or so, everyone was holding several large sacks full of crystal cores, gathered outside the main gate. Just as I was about to tell them to head inside and refine the crystals, a sudden cat yowl echoed from the distance. I saw a massive black cat sprinting toward us at over 10 meters per second, and there seemed to be a woman riding on its back. In the blink of an eye, it stopped right in front of everyone. "Wait, isn't that the huge internet star, Song Xingwan?" Lu Biao recognized the woman on the black cat immediately and teased her. Seeing that she had finally reached the shelter, Song Xingwan's tightly wound nerves finally relaxed. "Guys, please, can you let me inside the shelter? Don't worry, I won't stay for free. I can do chores, sweep the floors, anything." Looking at all of them wearing badass armor and the massive sea of beast corpses on the ground, she was incredibly shocked. But now wasn't the time to ask questions. Her eyes then landed on me. He figured I must be the richest man in Longjiang City, the owner of this shelter. Seeing this, I agreed. Fine, let's hope you keep your word. I don't keep dead weight around. Boss, if you tell me to go left, I'd never even look right. I swear, I swear, I swear. May lightning strike me dead if I ever step out of line. Meanwhile, on the highway heading toward the shelter, a Tibetan Mastiff, the size of a whole van, was sprinting at lightning speed, carrying two women on its back, Xia Yuning and Shen Jixia. Suddenly, a red figure blocked their path. Seeing this, the Mastiff let out a vicious roar. It snapped its massive jaws and lunged straight at the figure. But the figure was incredibly fast, dodging the attack with just a slight sidestep. Sister, he shouted, it's me, Xia Xiao. I finally tracked you down using your phone's GPS. Still shaken, Xia Yuning looked closely at him. Her face instantly lit up with joy. Standing there was a guy decked out in the flame dragon armor. Looking about 18 or 19 years old, Shen Jixia stared at him in utter shock. Is that the flame dragon armor? I can't believe someone actually tattooed that onto their body. Hearing her, Xia Xiao turned his gaze. Noticing the armor on her body, he realized she was an awakened tattoo user, too. He let out a soft chuckle. I've got the Emperor armor tattooed, too. Sis, where are you guys heading? We're making a run for the west suburb shelter. Come with us, Xiao. HMPH, locking yourselves in that metal cage isn't exactly safe. Sticking with the military is the only smart move here. Shen Jixia immediately agreed. Yuning, let's listen to your brother. The military is definitely safer. All right, fine. Change of plans, we won't go there. Meanwhile, out on the dunes of the western wastelands, a terrifying sight faintly appeared. A massive, swarming horde of fist-sized ants entirely covered the sand dunes. They were sweeping across the land like a plague, heading straight for the shelter. Back inside the shelter, soaring 600 to 700 meters high, the lights were blazing brightly. From that last hunt, we hauled in 21,321 crystal cores. I'm keeping 5,000 for myself. Divide the rest up among the boys. Once you've got your share, head back and cultivate. Just use your mental focus to absorb the pure energy inside the cores. Later, in the main hall of the villa, I deactivated my armor. Stared down at Song Xingwan, who was standing frozen in front of me. Other than you begging on live streams, what exactly are you good for? Hearing this, Song Xingwan quickly muttered, I can learn to do anything. I just sighed coldly. Forget it, her heart dropped at my words. Bursting into tears, she threw herself forward and clung to my leg. Please, she sobbed pitifully. I can live stream, I'll make money for you. I'll give you every single penny. I have to admit, that actually caught my attention. You've got some foresight, I'll give you that. Things might be chaotic right now, but the situation will stabilize in a few months. When it does, the live streaming industry is going to boom again. At that moment, Lu Biao, who was standing nearby, felt bad for her and spoke up softly. Boss, why not just let her stay? All right, fine, she's your responsibility now. Shortly after, I sat cross-legged on my bed in the bedroom, channeling my mental energy. Absorbed and refined 5 of the crystal cores, wisps of milky white energy flowed into my body, first washing over my muscles, bones, and cells before being entirely swallowed up by my 11 tattoos. It was already past 3 in the morning. Time really flies when you're cultivating. In the blink of an eye, dawn broke, but the sky remained heavy, suffocating, and utterly lifeless. A thick, heavy, gray smog blanketed the earth. Meanwhile, outside the Kyoto conference hall, 3 giant national treasure pandas, tens of meters tall, stood guard. Along with heavily armed troops and tanks, those pandas from the zoo originally had the intelligence of 6 or 7-year-olds, but after the mutation, their intelligence could rival that of humans, and they all knew they were national treasures. They had been fed and pampered all their lives, so how could they just sit back when the country was in crisis? Right now, they were absolutely the top-tier powerhouses among the mutated beasts. Around the triangular conference table, everyone wore a heavy, solemn expression, staring at the ruined landscape on the holographic projection. Military Commander Xiao Pojun spoke in a deep voice, this mutation, it happened way too fast. It caught us completely off guard. I heard Yi Xuanchen spent tens of billions to build a shelter back in April. Could it be that he can predict the future? Ministry of War's Yu Qifeng nodded. That's right, none of us took it seriously back then. Is he really a prophet, or was it just a lucky guess? But Minister of Finance Pei Zhongmu countered, do you really believe in that kind of coincidence? This kid, Yi Xuanchen, is absolutely not that simple. Saying that, he swiped a few times on the virtual screen, switching the satellite video to the shelter. When they saw the scene over there, all 3 men in the room gasped in shock. What filled their eyes was an endless sea of army ants. each one the size of a fully grown German Shepherd, forming a massive, pitch-black swarm that completely surrounded the shelter. They were frantically climbing up the defensive walls, but just as they reached a height of over 10 meters, they were zapped and knocked down by the electrified steel plates. Should we send fighter jets to bomb the area and back him up? Let's give Yi Xuanchen a hand. He might know a lot more about all this. It would be a huge loss if he died here. Let's observe first. If he can't hold on, then we'll send the jets. Turn on the satellite network so we can contact him when the time comes. Currently, Longjiang City had a total of 6 underground shelters, each capable of holding over 100,000 people. With the help of many tattoo awakeners, the military managed to rescue nearly 400,000 people in just one night and escort them to the shelters. Right now, somewhere in Longshan district, hundreds of heavily armed soldiers were driving 10 tanks and over a dozen large buses that could each hold over 100 people. Along with several military jeeps, on the buses right now, seats were completely packed with terrified, panicking civilians. Inside the residential area, giant rats, even bigger than fierce tigers, were running rampant. They charged at the military formation without any fear of death. Even with heavy suppressive fire, they just couldn't wipe them all out. Sha Shao, wielding his flame dragon blade, and Shen Jixia were also there, hoping to slaughter the giant rats that rushed close. Besides the two of them, there were over a dozen other tattoo awakeners helping out, but among them, only one was an armored awakener. The rest were physical enhancement types. With their combined strength, in less than an hour, they managed to carve a bloody path out of the swarm of tens of thousands of rats. It seemed like none of them knew that mutated beasts had crystal cores inside their bodies, which awakeners could absorb. So they completely ignored the beast corpses. After breaking out of the rat swarm's encirclement, Sha Shao and Shen Jixia shared a military jeep. Sister Jixia, that armor of yours is pretty sick. We should team up and hunt mutated beasts from now on. If we join forces, there's nothing we can't handle. Shen Jixia chuckled softly. Hey, sure, she actually had the same thought about forming a team. At this moment, Sha Shao boasted proudly. Don't worry, I've still got an emperor armor. I tattooed the emperor on my back, and the flame dragon on my chest. I'm a hardcore armor fanatic. I never in a million years thought I'd actually awaken them. Meanwhile, at the western suburbs shelter, up on the observation deck that towered even higher than the defensive walls, Lu Biao and his 108 brothers were all gathered there, staring down at the massive, pitch-black swarm of army ants outside the walls. Everyone felt a chilling numbness creep over their scalps. Zhang Tuo frowned and said, "You can't keep this up. We won't last. What's the panic? We have 300,000 tons of oil and 50,000 generators. Holding out for half a month is more than enough. These ants are dead meat." Suddenly, my voice echoed over the broadcast system. All personnel, assemble at the main gates. These ants will serve as the fuel for our rise. Also, turn on the global live stream. I want the whole world to see what an absolutely impenetrable shelter truly looks like. As for making ourselves a target, what a joke. Even in the face of a nuclear bomb, I have zero fear. Even if a nuke were actually launched at us, I could intercept it right before it hits the ground. I'd unleash my white tiger flying daggers, shattering it thousands of meters up in the sky. Meanwhile, inside the Supreme Council Hall of Jingdu, the national leaders wore expressions of absolute shock. Those people are actually wearing hyperglyph armor. The footage captured by the satellite showed the front gates of the shelter, where Lu Biao had already gathered the entire crew. And every single one of them was fully equipped with hyperglyph armor. Seeing this, the three leaders were finally certain. Yi Xuanchen absolutely knew the inside truth about the apocalypse. Military Commander Yu Qifeng spoke up. There is no need to guess anymore. He definitely knows the secrets behind this apocalypse. Right after that, on the screen, they saw me stepping out of the villa, instantly summoning my Grim Reaper armor set. Gripping the skull sight in my hands, a terrifying, pitch-black aura of death violently surged around my body.